Welcome back to the On the Ball podcast. This might be a new episode or it might be continuing on from the Group A preview. I'm still not sure whether to do an episode per group or an episode per two groups, but we'll see how long this one takes and that will probably dictate what we end up choosing. But looking at Group B here for the Euro 2020s, we are looking at obviously the favourite, one of the favourites for the tournament, obviously the favourite for this group, and it's going to be the Red Devils in Belgium. They've acquired, if that's the right word to use, 25 points in their last 10 games, which is quite simply incredible. That is equal second out of all the contestants in this year's competition. So they are one of the most informed teams, and they've also had statistically one of the toughest run-ins. I think they're third or fourth in the strength of schedule difficulty. So they've had a really, really good lead into their tournament in the last 2 years. They've scored 34 goals in 10 games, so that's really, really, really impressive. Something we've always been a bit dumbfounded by this team is how they haven't been able to, rack up 4 or 5 goals a game with the attacking talent that they have at their disposal. So that's good to see them starting to get some rhythm together. And goal against, they've conceded 9 goals against, so also pretty handy. So this is a big tournament for Belgium in general. I don't want to be pessimistic, and they've got some good young players, Yuri Tielemans. They've also got Wesley Fofana at Leicester. Obviously, a lot of great players that I'm not mentioning. But in terms of the genuine stars, the genuine guns that they have, we're talking De Bruyne, we're talking Alderweireld, we're talking Hazard, Witsel. This is probably their last chance as a group to really win a major title. I think the World Cup next year, I guess. So I guess that's not too far out of reach. But I think that it's a big ask for a lot of players at their age. I think most of their squad is over the age of 30, one of the oldest squads in the competition. It's a big ask for them to produce some of their best football when they're 32, 33, 34. So right now, most of them are still in their prime, but coming into the back end of it. So it's going to be a really, really big tournament for them. I think this is their best chance they've had yet. I think other years, their squad might have been better on paper and the opposition might have been weaker. But I think now they've played together for, 8 or 9 years as a core group. So by now they should be as good as a club side. So I'm expecting really, really big things from this Belgium group. They came third at the 2018 World Cup. They made the quarterfinals of 2016 Euros and 2014 World Cup. And that's sort of since this golden generation came through. Looking at their key players, their star man has got to be Kevin De Bruyne, one of the best players in the world, right up there for key passes, third amongst Europe's big 5 leagues. Also, believe it or not, I guess he assists a lot of goals, so it's not that confusing, but he's in the top 12 in Europe for expected goals plus expected assists minus penalties. So he's got his hands all over a lot of Man City's goals, and most of the people above him are out-and-out strikers or wingers, so it's impressive that he does that from midfield. He is third in terms of big 5 leagues for shot-creating actions. He's right up there for passes into the opposition box, and he's also right up there for dribbling into the final third. So he does it all, passing, shooting, not necessarily defensively, but that's not his job. Dribbling, he's just an absolute gun. And if he has his best international tournament to date, that could go a long way into seeing Belgium lift their first international trophy, and he's going to be a key to it. Hazard's obviously not in as great form as he has been at previous tournaments. Lukaku's in really good form. He's also going to be very vital for them, but I think De Bruyne going forward in attack is going to be their main weapon. Another one of their guns is Courtois. Now, not a lot is talked about goalkeepers, but I think international tournaments is where a lot of goalkeepers make a name for themselves. Just coming to my head, I know a lot of these are in penalty shootouts, but I know Jordan Pickford kind of developed a little bit of legend status really for his performances in the 2018 World Cup. And then thinking about Mexico's keeper Guillermo Ochoa, I'll be honest, I don't even really know what he does at club football, but when he puts on that Mexican jersey, he becomes arguably the best goalkeeper in the world. Watched the USA-Mexico highlights of their Nations League final the other day, and he was on absolute fire like he has been at so many international tournaments in the last 10 years. So go check that out if you haven't. But Courtois, Real Madrid keeper, obviously a big name, big player in general. He's a big man, but he's going to have a really good tournament for them. We saw in the 2018 World Cup, Hugo Lloris had a really good tournament for France, and keepers generally do play a big role in their team's success. So Courtois got to have a big tournament. He's had a really good season for Real Madrid. And another guy I'd like to mention is Jeremy Doku. Now, he's not going to be starting, 18-year-old from Rennes. Rennes have produced a lot of exciting talent in the last 3 or 4 years. He's likely going to be on the bench, and I think he should come off the bench because he could have a real big impact on how this team goes in the last 20 minutes of games. He is in the top 20 in Europe's Big 5 leagues for successful dribbles per 90. He's also in the Big 5 top league, top 12 in progressive dribbles per 90. So really good with ball at feet, and can imagine with some tiring bodies, I can imagine his youthful enthusiasm coming onto the field, maybe replacing some of the older boys like Hazard and stuff like that, and just cutting apart defences, especially in the early stage of the tournaments. But I can't see why he can't do it the whole way through. So Jeremy Doku is one who could have a little bit of a breakout tournament off the bench for Belgium, and I hope he gets that chance because it looks to be a really exciting talent for them coming through. But yeah, they've just got so many really good players. Their team's absolutely stacked. Carrasco's probably not even going to get there, and he's been a revelation for Atletico Madrid this year. Yuri Tielemans, he's going to be at the base of midfield. Had a really good year for Leicester City. Dries Mertens probably going to be there. He's had another good year at his club. And Lukaku's, De Bruyne, as I mentioned, they've all had really good years, all respectively making their own league's team of the season. So Belgium, huge chance of winning this thing. We'll talk about it later in my knockout predictions preview. And moving on to the other Group B sides. First of all, looking at Denmark. They're actually really highly ranked in the FIFA World Rankings. Like, I can't even remember what it is, but when I was doing my research, they were really, really high. They've picked up 20 points from their last 10 games, so pretty solid. They've had also not the easiest of draws. They've scored 23 goals, pretty solid, and only conceded 8. So no one's really talking about Denmark as they probably have been in the past tournaments. As you know, their star player Christian Eriksen is probably past his prime, and some of their other names like Martin Brathwaite and stuff are all past it. But they're still going to be a very, very good team, and they made the round of 16 in the 2018 World Cup. Didn't qualify for the 2016 Euros or 2014 World Cup, so don't quite have the big tournament pedigree there like others. But they're a really, really good team. Look, I'll be honest, their players aren't in the greatest of form. A bit similar to Wales, like I mentioned in Group A, but as a team, I think they're a lot better. I remember watching some of their Nations Leagues highlights, and they had some really good performances. Some names to mention in terms of statistics. I don't know if either of these two are even going to start, but Joachim Andersen, I'm probably saying that real wildly, but it's probably like Joachim. I actually don't know how a Danish person would say Joachim, I don't know. But the centre-back from Fulham, he was in the top 15 for clearances, and he was just a really dominant force. Played some great long balls. Every time I watched Fulham, he was really always one of their best players. And they've also got Cornelius. Don't know much about this bloke, but I know he's an absolute aerial threat, so watch out for him coming on and playing a bit like Artem Zuba does from Russia, just being an aerial presence. We're going to see a few of these tall strikers this tournament. I think Weghorst is going to start for the Netherlands. We've got Zuba from Russia, and this guy could also have an impact for Denmark. So watch out for those two guys. Maybe not start in the first game, but they might have an impact later on in the tournament. So Denmark, the second favourite to win this group, and that is probably why. And now these two teams, they're not in the greatest of form, but definitely not worth sleeping on. Finland, they have picked up 17 points in their last 10 appearances. Had a pretty easy fixture, it's got to be honest, it's got to be said. Only scored 14 goals, and that's definitely where the worries come for this team. They've played a lot easier teams than they're going to be playing in the tournament, and they've been struggling to score goals. They don't have that much creative talent moving forward. Defensively, they're pretty rock solid, a bit like Iceland that we saw at the 2016 Euros, who obviously had that infamous run into, I think, the quarterfinals. It was beating England. But yeah, Timo Pukki, I'll be honest, he's really the only player of note. I know Lucas Hradetsky is their Goalkeeper, been a legend of Leverkusen for a long time. Don't think he's still there. I reckon he might have gone to Frankfurt or something, but I could be wrong. I could be getting it mixed up. I could be getting the clubs completely wrong, but I know he was a good Bundesliga keeper for a while, and Timo Pukki had another good year for Norwich in the Championship, so he should be coming in red-hot form, and he's about the only player I know, to be honest. I know they have Kamara, the centre mid from Rangers. He had obviously a good year in that Rangers title-winning season of dominance with Steven Gerrard. This is I don't know when was the last time they made a European Championship, or if they ever have. I'm sure they have, because they've had some good players like Jari Littmanen, but they haven't made the last four big European or world tournaments, and they're really a surprise package. No one knows what we're going to get from Finland. And then looking at Russia, the fourth team in Group B, 17 points out of their last 10, so on par with Finland, but they've actually had an easier schedule, believe it or not. They've scored 20 goals, so goal scoring's not as much as an issue for them, but defensively, they're very, very leaky, conceding 16, which is right up there with the worst of the tournament. So that's a little bit concerning. They did make the quarterfinals of the 2018 World Cup, but that was in Russia, which I think definitely needs to be taken into account. Before that, their last three big international tournaments took place, ended in the group stage. So, yeah, look, they don't have too many key players of note. They're more just a very compact, solid unit. Well, as I say that, and they've got one of the worst defensive records in the competition. But Alexander Golovin is probably the name everyone knows. He plies his trade for Monaco in Ligue 1. He is their star player, very creative. Remember one of their friendlies the other day pinged his ball to the back post. It might have been offside or something, but it was a delicious ball. Zuba, he's a very well-known name, but yeah, Golovin, if they're going to go on a bit of a run, look to see maybe a little bit of a breakout from him at this tournament. Golovin this year, he's been really good in terms of key passes. He's ranked 10th in terms of key passes across the Big Five leagues, so he's had a pretty good year for Monaco. He's probably going to be playing a wing off an edge for this Russian team. They don't really play with a cam. So he's probably going to be playing off a wing, and hopefully we're going to see a lot of balls in to Zuba from him. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play. Games for Group B are going to be shared between Denmark and Russia. So Copenhagen will be hosting all three of Denmark's games. Russia will be hosting Russia's two, and then the other game between Belgium and Finland. I believe it's being played at St. Petersburg for Russia, not Moscow. And now in terms of a prediction, we will once again use the match predictor on the Euro website. So looking at Denmark-Finland, look, I can't see Finland scoring too many goals, to be honest, against these teams. We just mentioned that Belgium have a good defence, Denmark have a good defence. Russia's isn't great, but yeah, I just don't see them scoring too many goals. So I'm going to say Denmark. I'm actually going to back them in, and I'm going to say they win 3-0 here. I think Denmark might come out of the gates hot. Belgium, Russia. It is in Russia, I do believe. Yeah, it's in Russia. So that could play a factor. I know the crowd capacities are different for every city, so that's going to be something we're going to take into account. But for me, Belgium are just going to be too strong for Russia. Russia's defence is very leaky, so I could see Belgium scoring 4 goals, and I don't think Russia get on the score sheet, to be honest. That moves us into match day 2, where Finland and Russia is actually the opening game of the round. Finland-Russia, I would like to get around Finland, but I just think because it's in Russia, it's really, really not going to help the Finnish side. But you know what? Let's show Finland a bit of love. Let's go a 2-2 draw. Neither defense is sensational. Neither attack is sensational. But let's hope for an open affair that they just throw haymakers at one another. Denmark-Belgium, two very, very solid teams. I have a bit more faith in Belgium than Denmark in terms of being a bit more consistent, but it is in Copenhagen. That could play a factor. So I'm actually going to say a 2-2 draw once again, as I said in the first game. So I'm not saying Belgium are going to win all 3 games, which is interesting. And then moving into match day 3, Finland-Belgium, look, could be nasty for Finland, to be honest. I'm going to say 4-0. Actually, we'll go 3 because they do have a better defence than Russia. And then for Russia-Denmark, it is in Copenhagen. Denmark are the better side. Russia's got a solid attack though, so I'll go 2-1 to Denmark. So that will be it for Group B. Tabling up some of those results, I have Belgium finishing on top, finishing above Denmark on goal difference. I've got them having a goal difference of 7. Denmark with 4, both picking up 7 points and moving through to the knockout stage. I have Russia finishing in third on goal difference, both picking up 1 point. Russia have a -5 goal difference, Finland -6. Russia won't go through, so if you listen to the Group A preview, I basically ruled out Switzerland. So look, I'm going to have to maybe start showing some love to some of the third place teams. Obviously, it's hard to predict because there will be some upsets that we just don't see coming. But it's going to be interesting to see how Group B unfolds and whether I've got anything close to that. So if we are doing 2 groups an episode, this will be the end of episode 1 of the Euro previews. And you will be able to find Group C and D preview very, very soon. Otherwise, this will be the end of the second episode, and you'll be able to find the Group C preview very, very soon likewise. So thanks for tuning in again. Let me know how you think Group B will unfold, whether I've been harsh on Finland or Russia, whether I've been too nice to Belgium and Denmark. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll move into Group C on the next episode.